Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Panchatattva ki Jai Shri Shuddha Parishishwara ki Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Supada Maharani ki Jai Shri Srinitai Sachisuta ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Welcome for this CC class, dear devotees. Today we are continuing our reading of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, ADI-LILA. And today we have a very interesting, important topic that we'll discover very soon. And by coming here, I was feeling very grateful to all of you, to Srila Prabhupada, to allow me to be here with you, and that we can discuss together the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we are reading from 12th chapter of the ADI-LILA, and from verse 36. Is it on the board? Yeah. Govindere Agyadila Inha Aji Haite
Govindere Agyadila Inha Aji Haite
Bauliya Vishvasetha Nadi Beasite
Boliya Vishvasetha Nadi Beasite
Govindere Agyadila Inha Aji Haite
Govindere Agyadila Inha Aji Haite
Bauliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite
Boliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite
Govindere Agyadila Inhaji Hoite
Govinde Agadila Ina Aji Hoite
Bauliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite
Boliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite Govinde Agadila Ina Aji Hoite Boliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite Boliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite Govindere Agadila Ina Aji Hoite Govindere Agadila Ina Aji Hoite Boliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite Boliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite
Govindere Agadila Yaji Hoite
Govindere Agadila Ina Aji Hoite
Bauliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite
Bauliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite
Govindere Agadila Ina Aji Hoite Boliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite Govindere Agadila Ina Aji Hoite Boliya Vishvaseta Nadibe Asite
Govindere unto Govinda
Unto Govinda
Agyadila
Agadila
ordered
Ordered
Inha
Inha
to this place
this place
Aji
Aji
today
today
Haite
Hoite
from
from
Bauliya
Boliya
de Mayavadi
Mayavadi
Vishvase
Vishvasi
unto Kamalakanta Vishvasa
Unto Kalamakanta Vishvasa
Etha
Etha
here
here
Na
Na
do not
do not
Dibe
Dibe
allow
allow
Asite
Asite
to come.
to come
Translation. The Lord ordered Govinda, from today on, do not allow that Bauliya Kamalakanta Vishvasa to come here. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
The Bauliyas or Baulas are one of 13 unauthorized sects that pass as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord ordered Govinda, his personal assistant, not to allow Kamalakanta Vishvasa to come in his presence because he had become a Bauliya. Thus, although the Baula Sampradaya, Aula Sampradaya, and Sahajiya Sampradaya, as well as the Smartas, Jata Gosainis, Atibadis, Chudadharis, and Goranga Nagaris, claim to belong to the disciplic succession of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord actually rejected them. Verse again. The Lord ordered Govinda, from today on, do not allow that Bauliya Kamalakanta Vishvasa to come here. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Adati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Kamalakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Ramyatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tata Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before starting on this difficult topic of Apa Sampradayas, I really beg for your mercy so that anything we will discuss today will be relevant for our devotional path and bring us closer to Lord Chaitanya's movements in a proper way, following the bona fide Sampradaya, the Brahmamadva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, and that will speak aligned with Srila Prabhupada's insights and all our Guru Parampara in that regard. So, as it is clear from the purport of Srila Prabhupada, here it is about the Apa Sampradayas. And to give a little bit context about this episode, we're in the chapter called Expansions of Advaita Acharya, and we discussed yesterday that actually Kamalakanta Vishwasa wanted to help Advaita Acharya to liquidate his debts. Somehow, due to some festivals that he organized, he contracted some debts, and Kamalakanta Vishwasa just wrote a letter that he wanted to send to King Prataparudra. And somehow or other, this letter went into the hands of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this letter said both relevant things and irrelevant things. And this, let's say, the relevant things was that it was mentioned that Advaita Acharya is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed, was happy with that. But then another part of the letter was mentioning that concept of, how do we call it? Davidra Narayan, the poor Narayan. So it's explaining that unfortunately, even though he's an incarnation of Godhead, he's poor. So please liquidate his debt. And this made Lord Chaitanya very hungry, because angry, because it's not true. The Lord is not poor. He's never poor. How could he be poor if his eternal consort is Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune? It's just not conceivable. So, due to that, Lord Chaitanya wanted that he receive a proper punishment. And usually, the Vedic tradition, the punishment should be proportionate to the gravity of the mistake. So here, by seeing how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised him indirectly, because, for now, Lord Chaitanya just saw the letter, Hare Krishna. He saw the letter and was already angry, and he said to his servant Govinda, personal assistant, we know how close they are together. He told him that do not allow this Bauliya Kamalakanta Vishwasa to come here. And actually, if we don't have any understanding about who are the Bauliyas, we may not understand how this is actually very low class and devaluing Kamalakanta Vishwasa, putting him on this level. But definitely, if the Lord order like this, there is some deep meaning for us behind. So about the Sampradayas, as you know, we have 4 bona fide Sampradayas. We can give a comparison of us being in a dark well of material existence, isn't it? And if you want to get out of these dark well, we have 4 ropes. These 4 ropes, they are the bona fide sampradayas. So the sampradayas that are bona fide are so the Kumara Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya, what I mentioned? Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya. And I didn't mention Rudra first? Okay. So Rudra Sampradaya. Kaumara, Sri, Rudra Sampradaya, and Brahma Sampradaya. So these 4, we cannot enter into these details because we have 13 Apa Sampradayas to discuss. We might not have time for these 13 for sure, but at least to have them in mind, because these Apa Sampradayas are very important to understand who to follow, who not to follow. It's quite useful. I wish I could dig this topic before going to India. It would be interesting to analyze differently the different personalities we encounter in the Dharma. But I'm feeling very grateful that Krishna put this topic on the way for today, even though I was not planned for the class at the beginning of the week. Rohini Nanda was supposed to come and we switched together, and I felt, wow, Krishna is so kind. I wanted to know more about this, and now I have no choice but to study deeper on that. So yeah, these Apa Sampradayas, except of understanding how to behave towards this or that particular sects or Sampradayas, they help also to understand our tendencies that we may develop and that are not bona fide for us. Because what is the point of following a Sampradaya? Why do we follow Sampradayas? What does it mean, Sampradaya? Sampradaya literally means that these instructions that we receive from a disciplic succession. Yeah. So what is the point? What is the purpose of this Sampradaya, these teachings or instructions that we receive in these lines? They help us to actually develop ideal qualities, that Krishna also has himself to the perfect extent. Definitely, we cannot associate directly with Krishna. So we cannot get them directly because we are conditioned. And because we are conditioned, then our only hope is the spiritual master, who will actually, by his association and his personal instructions, help us to develop these ideal qualities. Only through that process. That's why we are always emphasizing about the importance of spiritual master in our life, following this Guru Parampara, rooted in Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And yeah, this is it. We, by following the footsteps of these great personalities in our Guru Parampara, we can definitely achieve these ideal qualities and reawaken our spontaneous attraction for the Lord, which is now, I can talk for myself at least, not natural, not spontaneous for sure. It's more regulated. But still, by carefully and attentively and faithfully following this process, we can definitely, sooner or later, by the mercy, Thank you so much, mercy. Yeah, we can come to that platform. I heard that even ISKCON today, for some Babajis in Radhakund, for instance, is considered as an Apa Sampradaya. They consider, because we are too much into rules, regulations, we are a part of these Apa Sampradayas. Apa means deviated Sampradayas. Why they say this? Because we are following the path of sadhana bhakti and we are forgetting the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So they feel themselves superior, that because they are studying the pastimes of Radha Krishna, they don't need to study the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is for sadhakas. So this is a conception they have. And unfortunately, they don't understand that by carefully studying these scriptures, the teachings of Krishna, who are non-different from Krishna, we actually get to the real understanding of our relationship with Krishna, not about deviations that we try to imitate the Lord, this Sahaja Sampradayas and so on. So we understand by these few words that Abba Sampradaya is unauthorized and it cannot bring any good fruits. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in a poem, 19 shlokas of a poem, Vaishnavake, what type of Vaishnav are you, or am I? He emphasized of some of these Vasampradayas, and we can understand that we will develop inauspicious qualities in our hearts by following them. There are three main ones. I will try to remember, but still I need my notes because it's quite a fresh topic. One of them is that we develop material desires. We will have this hankering for material desires. Yeah. Another one is that we like to go into illicit sex. This is another one, another fruit of Abba Sampradaya, if we follow them. And the third one is, of course, all the concepts around Mayavad philosophy that are considered by our acharyas and Srila Prabhupada in his purports as spiritual side, let's say. So definitely we don't want that, right? So if we want to fight an enemy, we need to know him a little. We need to know what are his strategies, where he is hiding. And this topic of the 13 Sampradayas is quite important if we want to go further and understand our own tendencies. Where to start? 13. 13 were identified thanks to whom? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur were very vehement against the Abba Sampradayas. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur identified them. He also fight with specific members of some of them. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta just followed and very strongly continued to fight. Acharya Prabhu Friday was mentioning how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was in an assembly of smarter Brahmanas and started to glorify them and then boom, cut them to pieces philosophically. Jai Shri Shri Radha Parishishvara ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai, Shri Shri Nitai Sachisuta ki Jai. We can divide in 4 or 5 groups these 13 Abba Sampradayas. First category is this those who believe about the fact that we can. What I forgot to mention is Abba Sampradayas. They are all considering themselves followers of Lord Chaitanya. This is very important. So they claim that they are followers of Lord Chaitanya. And so they deviate on many things, including from the scriptures. They deviate a sect from the scriptures, including Chaitanya Charitamrita. So let's look at it more closely. One group is pretending that it can happen to be a Goswami or a Brahmana only by birth, which is of course fully not aligned with what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers share with us. One type is the Jata Gosamis. So Jata means birth, and Gosani Goswami, who control the senses. And in their consideration, we can only be Goswamis by birth. Aside of that, there is the Smarta Brahmanas. Like this example we discussed also recently about the wives of the Brahmanas, I think mentioned yesterday with Patit Pavan Prabhu, how they were actually focusing too much on rituals and they forgot the 2 key principles of devotional service, which are to remember Krishna and to never forget him. And because of that, these Smarta Brahmanas, they are not properly situated and they may do everything perfectly according to rituals, but they forget Krishna. And in this pastimes of the Lord, when Krishna Balaram was so desired to, they manifested a desire to be fed, and they asked the Gopas to go to this wife of the Brahmanas. Actually, the Brahmanas, they were too much entangled in their sacrifice that they didn't even consider who are these Krishna Balaram. We don't mind, we have this sacrifice to perform. And due to that, they just missed their chance, and the Gopas had to come back to Krishna Balaram, who told them to go to the wives of the Brahmanas, who themselves were immediately going back and bring some food to Krishna Balaram. And in that sense, they were more elevated than their husbands. It is described that there are three types of Brahmanas. So we have the Vaishnava Brahmana, we have the Vipra Brahmana, who are scholars, let's say, and the third one is the Dvija. So they are ritualistically initiated as Brahmana. Both the Vipras and the Dvija, both are considered these Smarta Brahmanas. Only the Vaishnava Brahmana are not. Why? Because they are not by birth, as we know. It's a process through the Guru Parampara, and it's according to the qualities we develop. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita, there is this description of the Brahmanical qualities, 1842. So, yeah, these are the first two ones, heredity, so by birth. Then we have a second group of Apasampradayas connected with, it's about let's start with this one, the imitation, the Prakrita Sahajas. When we think about Apasampradayas, we usually think of Sahajas, no? Imitators who are also in the mood of prema too early, you know. They try actually to get it cheaply. Sahaja means easy, Prakrita means materialistic. So they try to get the fruit of this devotional process cheaply, you know. And so in this group there are four Apasampradayas. There is the Prakrita Sahajas, the Gauranga Nagaris, Sakibeki, and Chudadhari. About them, we have to understand that they consider that they are still followers of Lord Chaitanya, so they have some piece of understanding in some aspects. And they consider the holy name of Krishna so powerful. But they go too far with that, thinking that Krishna's name is so powerful that whatever you are doing, even if you do sinful activities, you get intoxicated, you take meat and so on, that's okay. Krishna will purify these tendencies. Just chant the holy name and continue your nonsense. That is their philosophy of these Prakrita Sahajas. And to understand properly, yes, the holy name is powerful. There is an analogy with fire. The fire can both bring light in our life and heat, but it can also kill if it's not properly used. So if we want the fire of Krishna consciousness to light our heart, then we need to be under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Under his guidance, we can benefit from the heat and light of the fire. Otherwise, if we don't, the fire will just kill us, you know, and it will not work. So what it means in our spiritual life to be under this is to mix. They are mixing spiritual principles or spiritual life and intoxicants. But it doesn't work. It cannot work. You cannot be both at the same time. Because if you're intoxicants or if you are not following the four regs, it means, and you can fight for it, and that's fine. But if you don't fight anymore for it, considering that, oh, it's okay, Krishna's name is so powerful, then what happens? You're actually doing a namaparad. And we'll come back to this at the end. Jiva Goswami connects these Apasampradayas and offenses together. Very deep teachings. So yeah, this is another one of the aspects of this Apasampradaya Sahaja. Then it might be funny for us, but it's actually very sad also, and very sad, and yeah, it's such a mistake. Like Goranga Nagaris, for instance, they mix the moods of devotion, so they bring some rasabas, and it's very painful. When I was reading this, you know, I felt, my God, how is it possible? I want to take their head and shake them, you know. They actually consider, for instance, that Lord Chaitanya is not in the mood of the servant of the Supreme Lord. He is in the mood of the Lord himself, but hidden. So they think that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came here to play the role of Krishna with the gopis hiddenly. And so sometimes they invent some stories or some pastimes of Lord Chaitanya with the gopis and so on, you know, and they themselves, Nagaris, Goranga Nagari. Nagari means village girls. So the Nagara and the Nagaris, they are together, and it's kind of considered an eroticism sampradaya, you know. So we're not enter into much details about that, but the big problem they have is that they consider lust to be spiritual ecstasy.
Oh, Krishna.
You know, so disturbing, disgusting. But let's remember,
I read like 2 weeks back that the Goranga Nagaris, they consider themselves the Nagaris of Goranga, that Lord Goranga is enjoying them.
Okay.
And some of them they dress like in women clothes, like
Yeah.
gopis.
This is the next category of this group, the Saki Beki. And Beki means dress. Saki are the close associates of Radharani. So indeed, be them man or women body, they dress in gopis to be enjoyed by Krishna. Okay, let's not go further in that. Then there is, on the other side, if you have Saki Beki, those who dress like gopis, then you have the other side, those who dress like Krishna, the Chadudaris. And so they dressed like Krishna to attract Srimati Radharani. Okay, so these are the group of the Sahajas. It's definitely some big deviations, and you can see that it's not grounded at all in any Shastric reference. So they themselves have to somehow invent things. They concoct conceptions like that because they want it cheap. They imitate to get it. Sometimes we say fake it till you make it, but they go too far in that direction, you know? And that's the problem. We go too much extreme. We have to follow a process. If we want to manifest our love for Krishna through kirtans, we cannot concoct kirtans or melodies and so on. We have to follow bona fide melodies, bona fide ragas. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So if we want to express properly our love for Krishna, sometimes we may think, oh, I don't need this. For me, it's just going from my heart, you know, and I practice like I want. No, it doesn't work like this. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavat, was following, for instance, some prescribed number of rounds every day. And some devotees, sometimes they go to this tendency, it's okay, I don't need to chant that number of rounds. I just, from my heart, you know, whenever I want, how I want. Someday I can, someday I do less, someday I do more. No, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't show that. Another group, be courageous, please. Another group is connected with the tantric practices. So they consider, this group consider that the body contains this spiritual ecstasy. We just need to activate it so that it manifests. You know, so tantric means more close illicit relationships with opposite gender, and they kind of find their way to get to this death while living. They try to reach this state that they feel they are dead while living, something like that. And how do they activate that? By tantric practices of mingling with men and women, And amongst this group, we have again four divisions, 5 divisions even. So there is one which is quite not relevant, but we can remember a story of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the Ativadi group. You remember probably this personality who actually was abusing his position. He was a mystic. So the Ativadis are mystics. So they have some mystic powers. For instance, he was able to lay down his head in the fire, get this fire, and can after light his head with fire. And because of their mystic power, they can cure people also. And back then, it happened that this personality, Bisa Kisen, you may know, was corrected, judged, imprisoned, and ultimately died, thanks to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was very, very courageous. So because they cure people, then they can easily put them under their own control. That's the thing. And this Ativadi, Visakisen, what they do is that they manipulate people. They do their own, translation and so on. And this personality, what happened is that, in this village next to Jagannath Puri, he was putting people under his control, even rich people and intellectual of the society. And he was, of course, asking them money, but he was asking also for women to come. And these families, being under the control of him, they bring their, their daughters and this and that, and God knows what he was doing with them. His so-called Rasa-lila dance. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, being so bold and strong and pure Vaishnav, was actually identifying him as being an imitation of Godhead, because of course he pretended to be Mahavishnu. They are pretenders thinking that they are God himself. And because of that incarnation of Mahavishnu, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a bit challenged at some point that even his family was cursed due to the mystic power of this mystic. His family gets sick. He started to get sick. But even though there was this sickness and, very serious sickness, he didn't give up. He was so strong that, and sure, confident in Krishna's power, all powerful, that he went to the end out of duty, and he engaged all his capacities as magistrate. He was a magistrate back then, and he used this reputation that he has. He could deal with any topic very easily and efficiently. He was well known and renowned in the community. That he went to the end of these judgments, and before the last judgments, it happened that they just cut the hair of this mystic, because all their powers is contained in their hair behind. And when his hair was cut, he just fell down and lost all his mystic powers. And then was imprisoned. And if I remember well, he was then committing suicide. Is it correct? Don't remember. Okay, to be confirmed. And there was even in this group of Ativadis another story I never heard. Someone claimed to be a follower or a disciple of Haridas Thakur, Jagannath Das. Not Jagannath Das Babaji, of course, but Jagannath Das. And he wanted to present to Lord Chaitanya his own commentary of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he added some parts in the Bhagavatam. And it was the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when Lord Chaitanya was even present himself. These tendencies were there. Can you imagine? And when Jagannath Das came there, he overpassed the personal assistants of Lord Chaitanya, and due to that it was offensive. And he went to Lord Chaitanya and asked him if he could present, but Lord Chaitanya said, no, it's not my level. You are, If you are already able to comment, then I cannot, sorry, it's too elevated for me. And due to that, after being rejected 2 times by Lord Chaitanya, they developed the idea that they are philosophically stronger than Lord Chaitanya. You know? So, you can imagine how dramatic it is. But yeah, after in this group of Apa Sampradayas, there are also 2 other groups, and one which is mentioned in our verse of today, the Baulia. So the Aulas literally means women and come down. So those who are afflicted with love. And their practice is bodily meditation. Again, let's not enter into any details, but focus on the Baula. The Baula literally means those who are mad, impatiently eager. So they are considered to be minstrels. You know, en français on dit ménestrel. So they are actually chanters. They play good musical instrument. They sing nicely, material point of view at least. And they are just wandering about from festival to festival. And yeah, they play instruments like ektar, durgi, bamboo flute, and they just wander singing like this. Of course, they have to control their passion. They think that and their tendencies. They smoke some hashish to to put under control their pulsions. And it is said that they flock from one festival to another. They call this festival Mahotsab, and they go to this festival for 3 days, and they, interact with the opposite gender, and there is no regulation in that. And from one festival to another, they just change the partners like this, and continue wandering around. And it's so dramatic, this one, because I read, I forgot to mention, but it's very important. All what I am sharing now, I read from Suhotra Swami. Suhotra Swami wrote a book about these Apa Sampradayas. In details, he explained about all of this. So just to remind you, Suhotra Swami is a disciple, American disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who since the mid-70s was preaching in Europe. And then he left the body in 2007. So behind him, he left this, among other things, this book about these Vaishnava sects, so that we can go deeper in that topic and see these tendencies. And it is mentioned in this book. I wrote also some articles. I could not read the book with the time I had, but the article mentioned that they even were glorified by the Nobel Prize in Bengal. So they were very supported because of their demeanor and singing nicely. It attracts some of them. Some people who are innocent, they get attracted to that. And because he was supported by this prize minister, like Nobel Prize, then they got good reputation, and they were even invited to the West, to London, to perform their singing, devotional singing, so-called devotional singing. So we can see how, even though the root was there, Bengal, Bangladesh, now it came also to spread in the West in the same form, in the exact same form. We can talk about tendencies that develop in our own hearts, and we have to consider that these certain sampradayas is just the root, But there are so many. Then we can see branches and sub-branches. Now there are many more sub-branches that develop from these roots. So, yeah, unfortunately, it also happened that in the same way, the Baulas are still existing, and they are even recognized by UNESCO today. I saw an article on UNESCO, the Baulas, tradition mixing Muslim principles, Bhakti principles, and Buddhist principles. And they are very, inspiring personalities and so on. Want to be cheated? We will be cheated. That's the point. So another group in that category, and I will stop after about categories, but the sign, they are mendicants who wander about without following any discipline. because they feel themselves higher. So we touched this topic at the beginning. So they dress as they like, sometimes in Muslim dress, sometimes in Vaishnava dress. They can wear beads, Vaishnava beads, but also some Muslim paraphernalia. They can have big birds. They can have, different haircuts and so on. They eat meat, they drink, it's okay. This is, one type of group. And the last, about this, the Daravesha or Darvesh, sometimes they are called. One thing they have, and that will differentiate them from the last group, is they still have this worship for Guru. They still consider that we need a Guru in life. And they worship the last group, which is called the Daravesh. And these Daravesh, they are the Gurus of the three above. So the Ativadis, the Aulas, and Baola. And they actually beg from door to door. This is their way of sustenance. And when I was mentioning that from Shastra, these Apasampradayas can also develop, they focused on one episode. The episode where Sanatana Goswami escaped from the jail of the Usinsha, of the Nawa. And when he escaped, he was wearing a Muslim
Dress.
Dress, thank you. And so, from that, they revived the whole, interpretation that we should dress like this. But there is one, it's true, it is written that there is one instance where Sanatana Goswami says, I will wear this to escape. And so they derive the whole philosophy about it. And we can see sometimes devotees also taking one point of our Siddhanta and making a full philosophy about it. Isn't it? It appears in other forms today. But that's the difficulty when we confuse the principle and the details, and we make from the details a principle. It should not be like that. So, unfortunately, this happens, and it helps us to understand how we should carefully study the Shastras and under proper guidance. If we read ourselves, we study ourselves, we're lost, we misinterpret, and we can derive our own philosophy. Because we are still this material tendency in our heart to have followers, women, prestige, money. And so if we want money from our preaching, then we may arrange the philosophy, no? Because not everyone can accept these pure teachings. So, proper guidance is needed. And the last group, the Kartabhaja, and here for me it was striking to see that this is the root of the Ritvik movement actually. They worship Guru as God. So this group is Kartabhaja. Karta means the boss, or the boss, like that. And so they worship Guru as God, and the name of Krishna are so powerful because they are given by Guru, and the name of Guru is more important than the name of Lord, and only because Guru is God, then it's bona fide to receive initiation. So themselves, they don't accept this Guru being different from the Lord. So they think that the Guru is God. There is no difference. Of course, ourselves, we should respect Guru as God. It is mentioned, but it doesn't mean he is God. He's a different person. Like each of us, we are different from the Lord. We are part and parcel of the Lord. So it's very important not to be mistaken by this conception. And the last one mixes Vaishnava and Buddhist. It's a kind of mix, and they are Neda Nedi, shaven head. Be they man or women, they are shaven. This is it. And this is one of these Apasampradayas. So we went along the 13 Apasampradayas. Just to conclude on that, Jiva Goswami made a very important point in his Bhakti Sandarbha, and he is dealing with the topic of unforgivable offenders. So incorrigible, sorry. And it's very precious to know that from the moment we have little knowledge. We study, you know, this bhakti path, and we have little knowledge. What happens after? We develop some pride. Oh, now I know how to do arati, for instance, so I will correct the pujaris when he is doing mistake. Or I know a bit more about philosophy, then I will correct this or that person. When we develop this pride, you know, that's why it's very important to deal with our pride. We become insolent, arrogant, and actually we can be excluded from any community. Actually, we exclude ourselves by doing that. It's not that they will tell you to go, but we exclude ourselves because we do three kinds of nama aparat. We actually start to question Guru, and then because we question Guru, we question also the community in which we are. So we offend the devotees, and we know that when we offend the devotees, it gets the parade, and it will, I mean, Guru is of course a Vaishnava, so both are very, very important, and they also then start to follow this fourth offense, like Shastra Ninda, like you offend the Shastra also because you try to interpret, to question the Shastras. And these three, why they are mentioned? Because in our spiritual life, if we want to be safe, in a proper situation, spiritually speaking, we need to follow Shastra, Guru, and Sadhu. And here, they follow the reverse. Shastra, they reject, Guru, they reject, and Vaishnavas, they reject also. So definitely, they are out of the way, and we cannot derive any good quality by following any of these apasampradayas. And this root of apasampradaya starts from there, when we offend, when we do namaparada. And these, especially three ones, they are very detrimental, and we can understand from Jiva Goswami that this is how we actually live this Krishna consciousness. If we combine them, unfortunately, this is our fall down from this path given by Srila Prabhupada. So let's pray to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur that they always keep us as their lotus feet, that Srila Prabhupada allow us to serve him and be strong with ourselves, to not develop these tendencies, to not let them grow. It may happen because we are conditioned, it may be there. Still now we have a little understanding how to identify them and then how to cut them, thanks to the mercy of Vaishnavas, Guru and Shastra. So let's keep keep association of bona fide devotees to be safe on our path. This is it from my side. We have 2 minutes left for questions.
Krishna Prabhu. There is question online by Golanga Prema Prabhu. He's saying how to know the difference between the principle and the details.
That's a very good question. You should reply the question. If it's the same Golanga Prema Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So I can take an example of let's try to draw the principle from an example. Like we know that we are supposed to focus on the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So this is a principle. Details will be, for instance, playing instruments around. So not that we should neglect to play instruments, but sometimes there is this controversy of using this or that instruments. This should be, kirtans. It's mentioned in some books of kirtan standards. Our GBC is called the Ministry of Kirtan, edited this book to clarify the areas for devotees that better to use karatal, mridanga. We can also use harmonium, but not during aratis. All these rules are given to help us to be in the proper mood. Still, it is, considered part of the details. Not that, we should not chant if there is other instruments. But if we start to change the principle, not to change Hare Krishna, but to change another mantra, or to start the Maha Mantra with Hare Ram, you know, like this Jagannath Das was doing also. He was thinking that I know better, so let's also change the mantra, starting by Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You see it already, like I feel it's strange. But this is one example showing the difference between principle and details. So maybe someone would like to share about this, because I don't think it's enough as an answer for replying the question of Gauranga Prema. I don't have clear and full picture about that. I don't know, Jaya Prabhu.
I think Rupa Goswami talks about it in Nectar of Devotion and Instruction.
Okay.
He talks about what are the principles.
So in Nectar of Instruction, yeah?
I'm not sure which one, maybe both of them, I can't remember.
Acharya Prabhu.
And one question, and so we see.
Is this a question? There was a Harini who left the hand.
I was just wondering if these sampradayas exist mainly in India, or we can find these people practicing here in Europe and
I didn't travel enough for that.
I never met any of them. That's why I'm curious. Or maybe they are sometimes in the temple. So I was just wondering.
You think we have one here? Maybe.
I was wondering if they are like in India or.
On Instagram there is
Is
quite...
it a small proportion, like very small amount of people, or do we know something?
I don't have any statistics about that, but as I mentioned, they come from time to time because they are recognized at UNESCO, so sometimes they may be invited for cultural programs, and that's how also they can spread their...
There is quite popular, she's called Parvati Baul, she's on YouTube and Instagram, quite popular.
Parvati?
Parvati Baul.
Actually, these upper sampradayas are there in our hearts also. When we do not follow the instructions of Guru and our acharyas, we are the part of that upper sampradayas.
Acharya Prabhu, you had a question?
Yeah, so it's a little bit connected with point what was mentioned by my class, that I was mentioning one name from one group. It should not be done. But how we should actually react with people who are connected with this, and they come to the temple, and we don't purify or mention this as that it is not bona fide to be connected with this kind of groups. So if we are not pointing this, then they never will understand or become purified from this. And then we are actually rejecting the attitude of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By not mentioning, okay, we should not hurt them, because maybe they will become offended by this. So that is my question in that sense, how to deal as devotees with, especially in the West you see this. In Amsterdam you had a congregation, they went to Sai Baba. But the problem was not that they went to this kind of groups before they came to the Sunday feast, but the problem was that it was never mentioned by the speakers. This was the point. So they, after 20 years, still they continued to 20 years. So that was actually the issue.
So, it's definitely the next question that came after reading all of this. Okay, if anyone manifests tomorrow in the temple, what to do?
Congregation, especially. No?
In congregation also, if we're aware of anything. Definitely it has to be addressed as soon as possible for the congregation to themselves directly. But Vaishnavas also, following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, need to keep manifesting this compassion and try to correct not the person but the tendency. Because being Jiva, all of us, we are part and parcel of the Lord. So yes, some of us have developed these tendencies, but this is a tendency. These tendencies, they can be eradicated by the strong word, by the association with the pure devotee, no? We are not pure devotees, so for the time being, we cannot fight ourselves against these tendencies that we may have in our own hearts, so we have first to take care of this by our own endeavors, practice. But if we are in any position to to help in that regard. Our help should be to protect the congregation, to protect the temple by addressing this person, their authorities, let's say, and informing also the devotees of the congregation not to associate with them, otherwise this will happen. It doesn't mean like we cannot publicly address, because I mean it doesn't seem relevant to publicly address because you know, they might themselves feel you know, somehow offended, and any discussion will never happen. It will not be constructive. So if it happens, yeah, it should be dealt with the person themselves in a private space, so that we can you know, go without any like go very strongly, boldly, like our acharyas showed. This is what comes to my mind for the time being. Again, this I hope is addressed by our GBC on international level, how to address that. Recently we had in France the National Council addressing this topic, because we see that in some of our centers in France, you know, some devotees go and bring people from France. You know, in ISKCON centers, they take from France and they bring to India, to Apasampradayas.
Oh, really?
Yes. So definitely we are starting to wonder how we can fight, how we can identify that tendencies, and is there any training that we can follow to see how to deal with that. This is very much required to my understanding. So yeah, we need to address, we should not hide. Even if we don't have full knowledge and so on, we should go and, no, sorry, now you have to stop associating with them, and you, as part of this group, you should not interact with our devotees, because we are following properly according to Shastra. If you disagree, let's talk about Shastra. Should always bring Shastra. And Narottam Das Thakur, one of the purposes of his Keturi festival was to put in front the bona fide translation, the bona fide biography, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why? Because if we read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita how Lord Chaitanya himself was dealing with women, then we cannot develop this mood of this understanding that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna enjoying with the gopis in hidden places. It's not possible if you accept this bona fide translation. So that is the thing. Interpretation of Shastras is a big part of this. Does it?
Yes, it's okay. One thing for Mataji, a small thing, and she wants to know more about Sahaja and Mayavad, Dr. Kasmarek gives a lot of lectures about this, Neo-Sahajism and Neo-Mayavad in ISKCON. So that is quite interesting, quite detailed, the tendencies.
And Suhotra Swami mentions also in his book that he got inspiration from different books, but also on the modern form of these Apasampradayas, he got a lot of information, inspiration from Bhakti Swami to know how it manifests today in the modern world.
Yes.
So thank you for reminding that. Here we are, the class. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Great JIVAPRANA Prabhu ki jai.
Toute gloire aux dévots assemblés.